to First Things First. It is good to be back with you. It is good to be back with both of you after a week away. I'm still Jenna Wolfe. He is still the Hall of Famer Cris Carter, and this is Nick Wright.
All good, baby.
We have been away and we have missed you, but we are still caught up on everything that happened.
Yeah, don't adjust your TV. It's not your color. We're all looking a little more chocolate. Jenna, beautiful with the tan.
He could say
Nick
that.
Wright bringing in the middle, and of course me. You know, I got a built-in tan, but it's enhanced.
Oh, we've got a fun 3 hours ahead for you, but we're happy to be back together. Let us start with LeBron James. That is where we left off. That is where we will pick up. So the Lakers lost to the Pelicans over the weekend, a Pelicans team without Anthony Davis. The loss dropped the Lakers a game below 500. They're now 3 games out of the playoff picture. Not a great spot to be in with only 23 games left to play. As a result, LeBron had some harsh words for his teammates after the game. Take a listen.
You've never been there or know what it takes to actually, you know, shoot for something like that. And sometimes you're afraid to get uncomfortable. You know, so you got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. So I'm not saying that's what we are as a whole. Kind of looks that way at times. That, you know, sometimes we feel like we're afraid to be uncomfortable, kind of get out of our comfort zone. You know, kind of, you know, have that sense of urgency, you know, from the jump, not be afraid to actually go out and fail to succeed. So, I mean, we have, what, 23 games left. It's just been so, like, in the last few years, you know, everybody's so accustomed to the losses that I'm just not accustomed to. I'm not accustomed to it. I would never get comfortable with losing. So, you know, losing game 1 to Houston, it feels the same way as losing game 59 in New Orleans for me. That's just how I'm built. That's who I am.
LeBron is so locked in, keyed in. At all times, he knows exactly how many games are left on the schedule. You wonder if you polled everyone on the team, they knew that there were 23 games left to go for this Lakers team. See, what'd you make of what LeBron had to say?
LeBron's frustrated. It's been a frustrating season. It was going to be tough in the transition, but he didn't think it was going to be this tough because the one thing that he's been able to depend on, that's his availability. Last year with the Cavs, 82 games he played when they desperately needed, because they went through a couple situations like the Lakers are going through. But we knew that LeBron, he had the Eastern Conference. So we weren't worried. Well, Nick wasn't worried. You and I were worried all year. Nick, you worried? No, not yet.
Worried.
But he had the Eastern Conference. Now being in the West and with players that haven't seen it. So I appreciate what LeBron's saying, but if I was him, I'd be very, very careful, because if I take what he's saying and say that these young players, they've never been there and they're comfortable with losing, why would I keep acknowledging that? So I believe that LeBron, if he's not careful, these young players, because they're looking to LeBron for leadership, how did that help them? It might be the truth. Being a leader is very, very tough. And I thought what LeBron said, it was the truth, but it didn't help these young players. And that's what this is really about. These young players and the players they brought in this offseason, them gelling and trying to play good basketball. If LeBron had missed those 18 games, we wouldn't be having this conversation, because they would probably be in the 4th, 5th spot in the Western Conference. But now you're starting to pick apart, man, is Luke Walton really a good enough coach? What about these young players? They're used to losing.
What about these offseason acquisitions?
Yes.
None of which seem
supposedly
to be
they were fit to make us a great defensive team and to be able to play with LeBron James. Neither one of those things are true right now.
So here's what I think is the most interesting about what you said. It might be true, but why just say it? Because another thing LeBron said this weekend that he's caught a lot of criticism for is basketball the most important thing? And people are throwing in his face, how many TV projects you got going? Aren't you about to sit down with Maverick and do another Shop episode with Anthony Davis and Antonio Brown? Now, LeBron has always been adamant about, as they put it, keeping the main thing, meaning keeping basketball as your #1 no matter what.
And I'm sure that was a lot easier when you're in Cleveland.
Of course.
Compared to being in Los Angeles, where guys, NBA players, NFL players, on his off day or in a morning or something, be like, hey, will you come to L.A. to be able to shoot something? Yes, there's more people available for those types of things.
And it's similar when he had the comments about social media. Young guys need to stay off social media. And LeBron is on social media as much as, maybe not scrolling as much as the young guys, but posting as much as just about anyone on the team. But there are coaching issues. There There was the LeBron health issue, which, by the way, I think is still lingering in this regard. He's got to be 280, 285 pounds. This is the biggest LeBron's been in his career. He is moving.
Now, Nick, I'm going to tell you, because I've been watching LeBron since he was a kid. And I thought when he went to the Heat, I knew he changed his body for a physical reason. So I said, maybe it's the color scheme. Then he went to the Lakers. I'm like, is it the purple? No, is it the gold? Like,
he's at least 20 pounds heavier than before the injury. I'm certain of it.
Wow.
20 pounds?
Absolutely. Listen, LeBron throughout the season will fluctuate typically between 250 and 270 pounds. Tries to be a little bulkier towards the postseason. Right now, he's got to be above 280. And there are also roster construction issues, but they can't deal with any of that. The health, there's nothing to be done about. The coach, they're not going to do anything about, and the roster construction. So what he needs to do right now is get with his teammates and say, guys, I can do what I can do offensively. I need you guys to carry us defensively. Because what happened against the Pelicans is 42 points in the first quarter. What happened against the Hawks was they hit, 11 threes in the first quarter. They are not coming out ready to play defensively. And LeBron's been criticized the last few years for his defense. This is the first time in his career right now he is a bad defensive player.
Yeah, he's a liability on the defensive end.
And so he needs, because even in the Hawks and Pelicans losses, which are the two losses which are why people are panicking with the Lakers, LeBron's given you 28, 11, and 16, 27, 7, and 12. So offensively, he has done everything that you could ask him.
Sure.
But defensively, the team's been a disaster. And this team was built with the idea of we will sacrifice shooting because we're going to get defense and toughness from Rondo, from Beasley, from JaVale. And now you're getting none of the offense and you're not getting the defense. So he needs, in these last 23 games, for the young guys to buy in, which is why maybe these comments were, even if you understand the frustration, a little misplaced.
Then there's this idea of the plan that they had mapped out for themselves, that in some way, shape, or form, they would make the playoffs in some capacity this year, maybe not go all the way. Then they would bring someone in, and then it would all be part of it. Do you think them missing the playoffs will affect them getting another big free agent, another big acquisition at the end of the season?
It affects a number of things. If they do miss the playoffs, they will fire their coach. If they do miss the playoffs, LeBron James will no longer be the greatest basketball player in the world. That title will be transferred. And as free agents, Kawhi Leonard and others, you have to question, really, even with LeBron James, they're not a playoff team. Am I the guy to take them over the hump? And you see the optics of the younger players not developing. So why do I want to join their basketball program? So there's a number of things that come with not making the playoffs. LeBron, 8 straight finals, 13 straight playoffs. No, this is a big deal if you can get in the playoffs as a superstar player, or you can't get in the playoffs.
And you can't just, and we learned with the Hawks game, and we learned with the Pelicans game, you can't look at the schedule and say, oh, they'll win that game.
Yeah.
Because in the last 5 games, 2 of the games that I would have thought they're going to lose, at Boston and home for Houston, they won those, because Houston had James Harden that game. They won those games, and their 2 easiest games, at Atlanta and at Atlanta and at New Orleans with no Anthony Davis, they lost those games. But the only reason the Lakers season is still alive, the only reason they're not on a 7-game losing streak is that Celtics and Rockets win. It is noteworthy. In the Celtics game, they were down 18.
Yes.
In the Rockets game, they were down 19.
So you're saying the last 7 games, they're 2-7.
They're 2-5. 2-5,
right?
And the 2 wins have taken monumental comebacks.
Wow.
Which speaks to the lack of urgency. You come out against Boston, you get punched in the mouth. You come out against Houston, you get punched in the mouth repeatedly, and then have one of your best 15-minute stretches of the season to save that game, but you can't build on anything. After that Houston win, you were like, okay, you're going to play 2 against New Orleans. You figured Anthony Davis wasn't going to play one of them, and a game against Memphis. You can win 4 in a row. And, by the way, the Spurs are struggling. They can't win on the road right now. The Clippers are falling back the way we thought they might. And they haven't been able to take advantage of it. Still 3 games back of the playoffs. I told you, Jenna, after the Pacers loss, I think it was, they have 10 losses to play with. They now have 8 losses to play with. It's 15-8 minimum.
Right.
The rest of the way, that would be one of their best 23-game stretches.
You know
of the year.
who you made happy this morning?
Who?
Coach Mangini.
Why?
That
And he went through the schedule.
Looking at that schedule.
Oh, yeah.
You can't count those as well.
No, you can't count them. Not this year, not with this Lakers team.
No, look, what he said was true. They need to play with a sense of urgency. He just should have said it maybe to the players and not to everyone else.
And he can play with some urgency on the defensive end.
All right, got to take a break. Coming up, should Zion shut it down for the year? That's next on FS1. And you can always check us out on the Fox Sports channel on Sirius XM. We will be right back.
Hey guys, it's Nick Wright, and I want to tell you about Indochino, a new way for men to upgrade their wardrobe without breaking the bank. Indochino was founded on the belief that you don't need to spend a fortune on a custom wardrobe by taking the premium, made-to-measure experience direct to the consumer. They've created a superior alternative to off-the-rack clothing at ready-to-wear prices. Indochino allows customers to step into the shoes of a designer to create custom suits, shirts, chinos, blazers, and overcoats. They select from hundreds of fabrics and endless options, including lapels, pockets, buttons, linings, and monograms. Indochino couldn't make it any easier to start looking good. Just follow these easy steps. Visit a stylist at our showroom and have them take your measurements personally, or measure at home yourself and shop online at Indochino.com. Choose your fabric inside and out. Choose your design customizations, submit your measurements with your choices, and then relax while your suit gets professionally tailored and mailed to you in the next couple of weeks. My listeners can get any premium Indochino suit for just $359 at Indochino.com when entering FTF at checkout. That's 50% off the regular price for a made-to-measure premium suit. Plus, shipping is free. That's Indochino.com, promo code FTF for any premium suit for just $359 and free shipping. That's an incredible deal for a premium made-to-measure suit. Now, back to the show.
We'll talk Zion in just a second, but first, a couple of big plays you might have missed. Knicks Spurs, Dennis Smith Jr. with the off-the-board alley-oop to Mitchell Robinson.
Look at this. I mean, Dennis Smith Jr. has been a part of a few really good highlights this weekend. This is a terrible loss by the Spurs, by the way. Knicks aren't even trying to win.
T-Wolves and Bucks from Saturday. Giannis thinks he had the dunk. Anthony Tolliver had other ideas.
Much respect going for this one, because Giannis, I think he's second in the NBA in dunks. Even trying to block this one, did that help defense? Oh, much respect for that now.
That is a great play that I am seeing for the first time this moment. Wow. Couldn't get this Bucks game.
Hawks and Pistons from Friday. Check out Trae Young. Between the legs, around the defender's back, sets up the dunk for Dwayne Dedmon.
This was so nasty because he needed to pause to make the draw the defense to him, but he had to go back between his legs to get the defender there, create enough space and separation for the pass. Man, I like watching him play. I wasn't a huge fan, Nick. You've got me more on his bandwagon. He's had an exciting rookie season. If Luka wasn't playing.
Exactly right. It'd be he and DeAndre Ayton competing for Rookie of the Year. He's been really, really good.
All right, moving on to Zion Williamson. He missed Saturday's much-hyped game against Syracuse with his now famous knee sprain. The sprain has sparked a national debate. Some say Zion should get back on the court when he's healthy. Others say he should shut it down to prepare for the NBA draft. Coach K said he's not rushing the freshman phenom back out onto the floor.
We would never play a kid who's not ready to play, or we would never play a youngster who didn't want to play. And so, you know, it's not about that. It's about he wants to play. You know, he loves being a Duke. He doesn't like being injured. It's not an injury that it's an injury that you can get over in a shorter period of time. And there's just a protocol that we have to go through to make sure that he's completely ready. And we're not going to rush anything.
All right, Nick, let me ask you, do you think Zion should shut it down for the rest of the season?
Absolutely, unequivocally not. And this is one of the most ridiculous, to me, manufactured debates and controversies I can remember. He is not a football player. He is not a running back. He does not have a certain number of carries on his body. He also is a guy that chose to go to Duke to play in big games. Chose to go to Duke when he was with any other school in the country. He'd be the top recruit for their class. He chose to go to the one place where he was second or third going into it. Chose to play for that coach. Did all of this eyes wide open because he wants to get better, he wants to play basketball, and he wants to play on the biggest stage. There is no realistic basketball injury Zion Williamson could suffer that causes him to fall out of the top 3. I don't even think fall out of the #1 pick. And if today we found out Duke basketball is mired in a horrible scandal and the program was shut down for the year, death penalty for the season, you know what Zion Williamson would be doing the day he gets cleared by doctors?
Playing basketball.
Playing pickup ball at the Duke Rec Center. You know what all the best NBA players do in the summer? They go to UCLA and they play basketball. Basketball players play basketball year-round. They might take 3 weeks to the south of France in the offseason on some super yacht, and then they're out hooping. Like, what basketball players shut it down to protect? It's never happened because it's so different. The injury risk is different than the other sports. The financial guarantees are different than the other sports. And the need to improve on a day-to-day basis, that's consistent with the sports, and he's got a great opportunity to do it.
When I talk to a lot of coaches, the top coaches, and one of the things that they really don't like about this generation of athlete and their parents or people handlers is that everyone has just forgotten about the process of developing a hooper, a football player, tennis. Everyone just wants the quick microwave, express, get there. Do you realize how good he's gotten in the last 2 months playing basketball at Duke? Because when you decide to go to Duke, not only the recruiting things, yes, they're available, but look at his other options, all right? He couldn't go to the NBA. He could have went to the developmental league, right? So what kind of medical staff do they have there? You think it's better than Duke? And the pristine Duke hospitals and all those? What about the USA basketball? It's been under the leadership of what coach?
Coach K.
For how many years?
At least better than a decade now.
Oh, okay. So you're going to a university, not from a medical standpoint, that's going to be your best, it's going to be your best solution. From a coaching standpoint and your development, it's the best solution. From a fan standpoint, playing on the national stage, big audiences, big games, getting challenged to get better, that's the best place to be. So we need to stop having this. And the problem has been people who haven't played sports typically get on this. But now we've had some prominent athletes, people that have been successful. Now they've lost their mind. And they're starting to say, oh, you know something? He shouldn't play. We have Hall of Fame basketball players that, oh, he shouldn't play. That player's wrong because they forgot about their development and how critical it was at this stage of their career. He does not have a jump shot. He does not have an intermediate game. All those things need to be developed, and they'll be developed best playing for Coach K and playing for Duke. So I'm with you. This is an idiotic conversation, debate to have. Hoopers, who?
And he needs to play in big games because when he goes #1 overall, he's not going to play in a big game for at least 2 years. A minimum of 2 years when the Suns or the Cavs or the Bulls or whomever gets him, he is not going to be in the playoffs anytime soon. So those ACC tournament games, those NCAA tournament games, those will be at least something he can draw upon when he's in big NBA games. And here's what's happened here, in my opinion, Jenna. There are a lot of people similar to me that have an enormous issue with the NCAA, that have an enormous issue that Zion doesn't already have a shoe deal, that he's not able to sign autographs for money, that we saw the Duke-Carolina ticket prices were more than Super Bowl ticket prices for some seats, and we saw he's not getting a cut of it. We know what Coach K makes. And some people can't help themselves, but if they feel that way about the NCAA, then anytime something like this comes up, they want to say, well, you screw the NCAA. Okay, you can say screw the NCAA. Doesn't mean it's best for the player. Zion Williamson was not considered a top 3 pick before this season started. He has now made himself the unanimous #1 pick that people say you would trade him for Anthony Davis straight up. Maybe. Maybe you'd rather have Zion. Playing for Duke in this instance for this player has been great for him.
And anyone can blow out their shoe. All right? That shoe he's wearing, the PG2, that's the most popular shoe worn in the NBA. So people are like, oh, man, he can get hurt. He can get hurt working out. Because like you said, if he's not at the rec center playing, whatever agent he decides to go to, he's going to be in some gym with some quality players playing against him, and these type of things can happen all the time. He slipped on the floor. His shoe did blow out. All right? That can happen anywhere. So you can't overreact because you don't like the NCAA and because he had a malfunction with his sneakers.
No, he's going to be more protected at Duke than he will be playing anywhere else. But he also wants to play. He wants to get back out there.
Oh, no, forget about that, though, Jenna. What the athlete wants and everything, and his goal, oh, that really doesn't matter. Everyone else wants to take direction of someone else's career, someone else's talent. That should be the most important thing. What does the kid want to do? And the kid has the type of attitude that we have seen, and that's why in America the sports has been great, because our best players, they all wanted to play. Thank God God didn't give someone with Zion his ability and give them the work ethic of someone else, because I believe he has the right attitude. He picked the right school, and he's doing the right thing for his career.
All right, let's take a break there. Got to take a break. Coming up, oh, the Celtics struggling, but Kyrie not worried. Not even a little. Hear it from him next on First Things First. Here's a quick and free way to finally stick to your New Year's resolutions. Start listening to podcasts on Spotify. With more than 150,000 podcasts, including many of the world's most popular self-improvement shows, you can learn how to balance a budget, balance your diet, and even learn how to feel balanced while meditating. All podcasts on Spotify are free, and you can download episodes for those times when you've gone off the grid, you know, to get all that newfound balance back into your life. So start the year off right and start listening to podcasts on Spotify. The Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series is headed to Vegas. It is Sunday at 3:30 Eastern on Fox and the Fox Sports app. It is time for us to go viral. Former Oregon State wideout Ramel Dockery took to social media to showcase the different personas of a wide receiver, from Mr. Footwork to the coach's son. All right, CC, where do you fall?
Oh, there's Butterfingers that we know. See, you don't got no love for that. Coach's son. What's this one?
Oh, he's still good. It's okay. Great job. Great job. Good effort. Good effort.
Blames the quarterback. Oh, this is good.
It's cute.
See, he doesn't have a hands one that I can tell. The clumsy wide receiver.
Oh, there you go.
Oh,
Fall
there
down.
we go. Come on, man. Come on. Mr. Footwork is good, though.
Oh, the All-American. Oh, that was actually a great catch.
I prefer using something that's more useful. I don't know where these guys have all this time to make all these videos and everything. Now, that was well done.
But you would also note that the way he's being CG'd is former Oregon State wide receiver. So not currently playing anywhere necessarily. Maybe a coach somewhere on his own, a little instruction, trying to get a little like this
and
publicity
it worked.
From his videos. I got no problem with that.
No, I knew he wasn't any good. I knew that. Oh, I knew he wasn't no star.
Stories to start your morning, sponsored by Gillette Clear Gel. We start with the Cowboys. One former scout says the Cowboys have to lock up DeMarcus Lawrence as soon as possible. See, you think Dallas listens?
They better listen. Man, these guys are rare. You need one in the National Football League unless you're New England. Now, they do it by scheme, and they're going to make sure their guys are in the right place. But everyone else, man, you need a dude. And the Cowboys have one. Lock him up, man. He's earned it.
The Cowboys should listen, but one of my absolute tenets at my agency, is if you get this close to hitting free agency, you never sign the extension now. You've already played the games. You've already dealt with the injury risk. You've already been franchise tagged. Wait until free agency begins. See what the other offers are. Let the Cowboys make whatever offers they want. Those offers will still be there once the league year begins and free agency
but the question is, do we lock him up? Yes, lock him up.
The Cowboys should try, but DeMarcus, just be patient.
Yeah, it's his first day back from vacation. He ain't into it yet.
Just be patient.
Tune back at 7:30. He'll be hotter.
To the Steelers now. One former Pittsburgh player was critical of Big Ben over the weekend. Hines Ward saying the Steelers quarterback has to do more as a leader. See, you agree with Hines?
Well, I've known all along that there were some leadership problems, not only from Mike Tomlin, but there's been leadership problems with Ben Roethlisberger. He could have been a better leader. But at this point in your career, it's hard to be changing your leadership style. And based on the general manager, the general manager has empowered Ben Roethlisberger. Hey, man, you're dealing with kids. You can tell them anything. So Ben Roethlisberger, he's had this problem for a long time, and I don't think he'll ever get that solved.
And the Steelers have made the clear choice to publicly endorse Big Ben's behavior and leadership style.
Yes.
When Kevin Colbert says it's Ben and 52 kids, as you alluded to, that is, I couldn't believe he said it. But that is giving Ben carte blanche to do what he wants.
And I'm sure there's other grown men in that locker room. Pouncey, Cam Hayward, especially in Cam Hayward, guy's never been involved in anything controversial. He's anything but a kid.
Absolutely right.
He's more responsible than Ben Roethlisberger ever will be.
How about the veteran on the team? He's a kid? Villanueva?
No. Yeah.
Both the Spurs and the Clippers lost yesterday. They currently sit at the 7 and 8 seed in the West, respectively. Nick, what does this mean now for the Lakers' chances?
Listen, it means the Lakers aren't dead yet because yesterday was really good for them. The Spurs losing to the Knicks.
Yes.
Clippers getting blown out. You would expect them to lose to the Nuggets, but getting blown out the way they did. It means the Lakers' loss to the Pelicans wasn't as damaging as it could have been, but the flip side is, had they just taken care of business against the Pelicans, they'd be in really good shape given those losses. But it gives the Lakers a little breath of life.
Yeah, it sets them up that they can still get into the playoffs. You make a great point that now seeing what the other teams, the Spurs and the Clippers, we thought the Clippers after the trade deadline, based on the moves they made, that they were punting on the season, trying to get into the lottery, trying to get a high pick. The Spurs, we didn't expect that. So everything is set up for the Lakers to make a huge turnaround here the last stretch of the season.
All right, things are going from bad to still bad for the Boston Celtics. Their latest loss, a tough one to the lowly Bulls over the weekend. In fact, of the 4 teams with the worst records in the NBA, the Celtics have now somehow lost to 3 of them. The loss to Chicago drops them to the 5th seed in the East, but Kyrie Irving says Boston will be just fine come playoff time.
You know, it is what it is. Like I said, I don't get frustrated about this stuff anymore. It's just part of the regular season, you know, in the playoffs when we could plan for a team, prepare for a team. You know, I still don't see anybody beating us in 7 games.
It's starting to get to a point where you're concerned that the struggle you guys had over the weekend in the playoffs?
No, I'll be fine.
Why do you think that?
Because I'm here.
I guess LeBron told him to be a leader. He's trying to be a leader. He's listening. What do you think, Nick? What do you think about what Kyrie had to say?
Listen, Kyrie's not the problem. Kyrie wasn't the reason they lost to the Bulls, that horrible loss coming off a game where Kyrie was part of the problem, the 1-point loss to the Bucks when Kyrie was really bad until the end. But the Bulls, he was excellent, and they got beat badly by a terrible team. He can say, I don't see any team beating them in 7 games. Not any team ahead of them in the standings that I could confidently pick them beating in 7 games, except for Indiana, who's without Oladipo, but still, by the way, has held on to its spot.
Right. I think that's the most shocking stat in the NBA this season. Right now, the Indiana Pacers being the 3rd seed in the Eastern Conference.
They were the 3rd seed when Oladipo got hurt.
Yes.
And everyone said, okay, they might fall out of the playoffs entirely or certainly to the bottom half of the bracket, and they're still there. The Celtics have been in 5th place in the East almost the entire year. And so even if they tick up a spot, you're looking at least you'd have home court for the 1st round, but not any time after that. And other than Kyrie, let's just say Kyrie is a given, because the way he's playing right now, plus his playoff resume, I'll give that to him. I think he's earned it, that I think Kyrie will show up and play well, assuming he's healthy. But who else do we know? Who else on the Celtics? We know we have a good idea of what Al Horford will give you, and it's very good defense, it's good leadership, and it's mediocre offensive numbers. But do we know what Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown? We might know what Gordon Hayward's going to give you in a negative way. Marcus Morris has been their 2nd best player on the team this year. Kyrie's exuding confidence because maybe he has to. But deep down, I don't know that he can feel this way, because I don't know anyone can feel this way about the Celtics right now.
Yeah, I know the other Celtics don't feel that way. I believe that Kyrie is reaching. He's reaching a little bit for a LeBron-type quote. I don't believe he has the ability. I know I've seen him in the playoffs, but he's never taken over a series. He's never done what LeBron's done. So the confidence that his teammates have in him, they haven't seen Kyrie do it. I mean, they were just kids when Kyrie hits that shot against Golden State. What were they, in high school? playing AAU ball? You think they're going to take that type of confidence? No, they're not. So they're in a bad spot. You do not want to be in that 5th spot. You do not want to play a 6-7 game series with Philadelphia to start the playoffs. Like, no, that is not the way that you want to start. I can understand Kyrie trying to get this team to be like, listen, if we get in one of these series, I do believe in our team, but they don't believe in each other. So this, I understand. He tried to stay positive, but the way they're playing, they're not gelling as a team this late in the season. And we have only seen, and to me, there's only 2 players right now, maybe 3, that will be able to say this. James Harden, if he was hurt, you go to the locker room and say, hey, man, you guys are struggling. Are you worried? He's like, no. Well, why not? Because I'm here. LeBron, okay, he can say that. Kyrie's not in that class. Just because he hit that shot to build in Game 7 against the Warriors, to me, that doesn't carry over to carrying a team from the 5th spot in the Celtics with this young, unproven team together. Like, you don't get that courtesy from me.
I agree. I wasn't saying I think he can carry them to the finals. But the point I'm making is, even prior, other than that shot, he's got multiple 40-point playoff games. We know that the playoff moment won't be too big for Kyrie, but does that mean he can overcome what is right now a team that doesn't know what its identity is, a team that doesn't know who its second-best player is, a team whose young blue-chip prospects in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum have not gotten 8% better
I do
this
believe
year.
Kyrie's success will harm the Celtics team because they were successful without him. Kyrie Irving was successful without anyone else besides LeBron James, and he didn't want to give LeBron credit. So for me, that confidence, when you get in these playoff series, you know what Kyrie thinks right now? I can take it. That's not the way the Celtics are their best basketball team.
But not having an identity, not getting the guys to play together, lack of chemistry, doesn't that all fall on Brad Stevens?
Listen, there's not been a good year for Brad Stevens. I mean, remember last year, I thought he was the coach of the year, and then he didn't get a single vote from his colleagues. And it was really interesting when Dwayne Casey won, and the comments from some of the other coaches, when you read the articles where it was anonymous head coach this, a lot of people were saying, we've crowned him a little too early. Let's all calm down. You told me. You thought I crowned him a little too early when I said he is one of the best trade assets in the league, second best coach in the league to Popovich. He has not dealt with this season well, and we are now 75% of the way through it. Like it doesn't erase the good work he's done previously, but it does. Certain coaches are very good with certain teams. The best coaches are good. No matter what team you give me, I'll figure out a way to make it work. He has not yet figured out a way to make this team work.
All right, let's move on to some football now. Aaron Rodgers, after missing the playoffs for the 2nd straight year, the Packers are bringing in a new head coach to try and right the ship. Some of the criticism in Green Bay has begun to shift towards Aaron Rodgers himself, and that does not sit well with his former wide receiver and friend, Jordy Nelson.
It doesn't make sense. I think it's comical when I read those comments. Everyone knows negativity sells, that in all of media. If it's social media, print media, TV media, it's all about negativity. People feel better about themselves when they hear bad things about other people. That's why that gets more pub. I mean, no one wants to hear that Aaron's obviously a great quarterback, but a great leader and does everything right. All right, there's your story. What fun is that? So whenever they can go back to the well and get the same people saying the same stuff.
All right, see, what do you think about what Jordy Nelson had to say?
Well, Jordy Nelson, he's one of my favorite. And I've had conversations with Jordy Nelson, interviewing him, sitting down with him, spending time with him about Aaron Rodgers, about his career. So I got a lot of respect for Jordy Nelson. In Jordy Nelson's career, which has been a very, very successful one, you won't hear a lot of sound bites. You won't hear Jordy Nelson being quoted, saying things about other teams, opposition. So for me, the guys who have not said a lot, when you do get a sound bite from them, you know, I listen with a little more attent ear because this is not what they do. And through the years, not only Jordy Nelson, Greg Jennings, Donald Driver, and others, they've supported Aaron Rodgers. But I think that, Nick, in conversating with you about this subject, I think that your take on it is very, very unusual, and it made me look at it a different way.
I think that, you know how sometimes I say with NBA players, they were underrated for so long, they became overrated. The pendulum swung too far in the other direction. I think something similar is happening with Aaron Rodgers. Not in the underrated, overrated discussion, but for so long, anything wrong with the Packers was everyone's fault but Aaron's.
Aaron Rodgers.
It was never on him. And a lot of that was because of his exemplary play.
Yes.
But then you were like, you know what? In 2015, he wasn't great. And he does seem to have, have a prickly leadership style. And all of a sudden, we started poking away at it. And now it's swung so far in this direction. It's like, man, coach killer.
No, he can't be coached.
He can't be coached. Who, you know what I mean? He wants to pick his quarterback coach, wants to pick his wide receivers. He isn't a good teammate. In fact, I heard his family don't even like him. Like, we have swung so far in that direction that I don't think that's fair. And I don't think that's right. And I think that Aaron Rodgers is demanding. The most talented player in the league should be. Aaron Rodgers is frustrated. A guy who has seen a team just have a philosophy about free agency up until very recently, which was we don't participate, that would frustrate just about anyone. And the most excellent players almost always have a standard of excellence they hold themselves to that is very hard to not hold other people to. And I'm curious to you, sorry, Jenna, I brought it up on the show multiple times, but the first time you and I spent a lot of time together outside of work was that Super Bowl back in Houston. And so many people came up and were happy to see you, but not a lot of them were your teammates. And and you joked with me and you said, man, because I was like, everybody loves you. You're like, well, not a lot of these are guys I played with. And I'm just curious what your teammates would have said about you when you were in the phase of your career that Aaron Rodgers.
I just think sometimes when you are a leader, and sometimes when people within the organization, they believe that everything in the organization is centered around you, and also the talent. The talent level of Aaron Rodgers, it's hard to believe. It's the only time in football history that we have had the transition of a Hall of Fame quarterback to a more talented Hall of Fame quarterback. People say, oh, well, Joe Montana, Steve Young. Steve Young is not Joe Montana. And, man, Aaron Rodgers, if we were having an NFL draft of all the quarterbacks all time, Aaron Rodgers might get my first pick because he's that type of talent. And that type of talent, is his personality a little bit prickly? Yes. Is he a little bit different? Yes, a lot like the rest of us. So, to me, that being liked by your teammates is not as important as being respected. And for me, the people who have played with Aaron Rodgers, the coaches that have coached him, they got a great deal of respect for him and his leadership there in Green Bay.
And what exactly did Aaron Rodgers do? He didn't want Alex Van Pelt, his quarterback coach, fired. He seemingly wanted them to keep Jordy Nelson there. Sure, he may have butted heads with Mike McCarthy, but they hadn't made the playoffs in a couple years. McCarthy shouldn't have maybe kept his job and was on the table that he could have left. So a prickly personality, but you're right. He's that talented that he warrants the ability or the freedom and the leeway to be able to, I don't know, demand a few things.
And it doesn't mean that he can't be criticized. It doesn't mean that if we want to break down what was the incredible non-interception streak he was on this year, you could make the argument that streak might have actually been slightly to the Packers' detriment. That one of the reasons that he had so many throwaways and so few interceptions was because he wasn't taking as many chances as the team needed him to. You can make the argument that he approached the relationship with the young receivers this offseason the wrong way. That those young guys, sometimes you'd see the sugar cube or the whip. And sometimes you go to the whip when it was needed to go to the sugar cubes. Like, some of these criticisms are fair. But we just went so quickly from none of the Packers' problems are Aaron Rodgers' fault to all of them are his fault that it didn't make sense to me. And I'm very curious to see how he deals with this season in the twilight of his prime with a new head coach in a team that's got a couple first-round picks that could be very active, either moving up in the draft, trading picks, player acquisition. Like, see how this version of Aaron Rodgers is and how the commentary from his former and current teammates sounds after this coming season.
Hey, I could be prickly. You guys know that. You still love me so much. A lot. There's a lot of love. Coming up are LeBron and the Lakers. You'll agree after in the break, probably. Are they in danger of missing the playoffs? That's ahead on First Things First. Back here, First Things First, Sports Illustrated senior writer Chris Mannix joins the party.
What's up, man? Brother. Good to be back.
We love having you here. All right, should have been a rough weekend for the Houston Rockets. They had to face the Warriors.
I want to talk to you about a bunch of other stuff.
in Golden State, without an injured James Harden. But they did have Chris Paul, and as a result, the Rockets did beat Golden State 118-112. It was a vintage CP3 performance, 23 points, 17 assists, and he passed the 9,000 assist mark. Chris Mannix, how far can this Rockets team go if they have this version of Chris Paul?
This version of Chris Paul is great with James Harden out, just like James Harden without Chris Paul out was great. But the reason the Rockets have half a chance of getting past Golden State has nothing to do with Chris Paul or James Harden. It's the guys they picked up over the last month.
Ooh, yes.
The deals, the offseason for the Rockets wasn't very good. Like, they let go of a couple of guys, Trevor Ariza, Luke Mbah a Moute. We can debate how much Mbah a Moute was actually worth to that team. But they were in some trouble prior to the buyout period when they grabbed Kenneth Faried and they grabbed Austin Rivers. I don't think I've seen a reclamation project like Kenneth Faried in the last couple of months. Kenneth Faried, he's averaging 16 points and 10 rebounds with the Rockets. Austin Rivers comes out of nowhere with let go with Washington. He's giving you 10 points in 33 minutes per game. Where would this team be without those two players? They wouldn't be in this position right now. So I think Chris Paul and James Harden are playing at this level and can continue to play at this level. The question about beating Golden State comes down to, can Faried, Rivers, and the rest of that supporting cast play at the same level the supporting cast last year did?
And that's why when I lived in Houston and once the trade deadline, or I'm sorry, in the offseason, once free agency would happen, we would do an annual radio interview with Daryl Morey. And he would always say, the number one thing NBA fans mistake is that your team on November 1st, this was back when the season started about November 1st, is not the team you're going to go into the playoffs with. And one of the reasons the Rockets have always been cautious about using their full mid-level exception, if we're going to use really nerdy terms, is because they want to save a little extra money. So when the buyout market happens, they're not just offering the minimum. They can offer a little more than other teams, and they keep a roster spot open for when, oh my goodness, we need Austin Rivers. Kenneth Faried's available. They would have been a spot potentially for DeAndre Jordan had he been bought out. So now all of a sudden, the Rockets look like, okay, they have their rotation. CP3, Harden, Eric Gordon, PJ Tucker, Clint Capella. That's the starting five from last year. But now a front court backups of Kenneth Faried and Nene with a backcourt backups of Austin Rivers and Gerald Green. You're only going to play 9 guys against Golden State at most. You trust all of those guys. And so now you're seeing who they actually can be. And the most important thing to me, though, is, of course, if Chris Paul stays healthy. Because we know that, to steal a line from Draymond Green, there are 82-game players and there are 16-game players, meaning guys that can do it in the postseason. I don't care about Chris Paul's postseason lack of team success. We know in the postseason he can be an extraordinary player as long as he's out there on the court.
Yeah, I think it speaks to a couple different areas. Number one, to your point, they got a great culture for an offensive player there in Houston. Austin Rivers, I saw in the game, they isolated him 3 times in a row. I was like, when's the last time? That was high school? The last time he got isolated 3 times in a row, 2 times able to make very, very efficient plays, 1 time scoring the ball, 1 time helping his teammates. Faried, what he's doing, bringing the 5 out to the shooting the three-pointer, playing with energy. And then one of the things that we don't see that often in the league, this team plays together. So that culture that they have there, the effect the head coach has on the players offensively, but once you come into that building, because he told us, they don't practice a lot. But guys like being there. They like being on the team. And you can see it playing off on the back end of this roster. So for me, it's not about Chris Paul and what he did. Because you know what they did? They ran the same sets that they ran for James Harden. They ran a double high pick and roll and let Chris Paul work. And if you helped into the lane, he dished it outside. So he had control of the game the way Harden did. So I believe that is duplicatable. But these other players and the roles that they're playing, and team-wise, playing together in this NBA, as you guys know, it means an awful lot coming down the stretch.
But the last time I think you were on, Mannix, we talked about how sustainable this is for James Harden. If he's going to have to do it, if he can do it, isn't it at least a little pressure off him knowing he doesn't have to do it every night?
Enormous amount of pressure. When I was down in Houston a few weeks back, I was talking to their coach. I said, you know, what do you think of all this? Like, we got to get help. Like, you know, it's awesome to watch all this happening, but they know a couple of years ago when they flamed out against San Antonio in the second round, that was largely because I think James played all 82 that year, and he was just exhausted when he went up against a top-tier defensive team, and he had to deal with everything all by himself. So having Chris Paul playing at this level is incredible for them. But on the flip side of it, if you look at Golden State, they might have a looming DeMarcus Cousins problem. Like, DeMarcus Cousins with that team, offensively, he's fine, even though, strangely enough, they're 6 points better offensively with DeMarcus off the floor. But defensively, you watched that game last night and watch every game that DeMarcus Cousins
pick and roll him to death.
Pick and rolling him to death. That's a problem for this team because, like, everybody's going to do that. And you can say, well, just take him off the floor. But DeMarcus already has had some kind of grumbles already. He's already kind of said, he's already been like, I don't know if I like this.
He's not playing in crunch
time. But which is a little bit surprising because he should have known coming in that this was the deal. Like, this was the story with DeMarcus Cousins. You knew you were coming into a ready-made championship contender. You were coming in there to rehab your body and rehab your image. And if he starts grumbling, the latter's not going to work.
I think you're doing a great job making the point of Golden State. Watch out. There might be some rumblings because now that they've removed the restriction minutes, because it made sense him not playing to end the games before because he was on the restricted minutes. Now they've removed that. Just listen to his interviews. He's had a couple little spicy little interviews, and seeing these competitive games and you're not on the court, because it doesn't only mean something for this year's team. It means more of him going to free agency. Do we make him a max guy? And these guys are selfish about their money, so that's something to watch. Great point by you. Something to watch coming down the stretch.
I'm serious about Kenneth Faried, too. If I have a most improved player vote, he should get most improved player for half a season. Like, he was stapled to the bench in Brooklyn and has done nothing for the last couple of years. But
and it's not like there's some horrible story in Brooklyn. No, they're developing their players. They're winning. They're in playoff form.
He has been a godsend for that Rockets team.
The least improved player I'd give to Jaylen Brown, but we can talk about it later. On the Rockets Warriors, just real quick. Over the last 2 years, the Rockets are 8-5 against them. 8-5. That includes regular season, postseason. They're 3-0 against them this year in the regular season. The Warriors are 1 game up on Denver. It's not like these Warriors don't care. The Warriors want home court advantage.
Engaged.
They saw last year, not having home court advantage, how much that could hurt you by the time you get to the conference finals, once you have to go through the gauntlet of the Western Conference playoffs. Like, there is an element of the Rockets, and since the Warriors have had Kevin Durant, they have rolled over everyone, including LeBron's Cavs, except for the Houston Rockets in that series last year, except for the Houston Rockets in the regular season. The Rockets won 3 in a row in the regular season. Like, even if you remove the playoffs, they have a winning record against Golden State. There is something there. And to do it without the last one they won was without Chris Paul, the overtime when James Harden hit the 3. This one to do it without James Harden, there's something to be said for that. And the DeMarcus Cousins point is something definitely to watch because they will run a high pick and roll every play he's on the court and force him off the court.
Every single time.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.